Does free will exist? I am 99% sure that it doesn't, but I'm going to explain to you why I don't think so. And then in the end, I'm going to give you a chance to win $100 by proving me wrong. Also, I will give $100 to somebody who can, in the next 30 days, remake this video with significantly better animation. Do we have free will? I am convinced that we don't, but before answering the question logically, just think about how you feel about it. Don't think about whether you do or don't think free will exists. Just think. Do you want free will to exist or not? I would guess that most people want the answer to be yes. We want there to be free will. We want to think that we have the power to influence our lives and that everything isn't just predetermined. I used to like the idea that we have free will, or, put another way, I deeply disliked the idea that we don't have free will. For the longest time, I hated the idea that we don't have free will. Logically, I didn't, but I knew I emotionally hated it because anytime I would watch a video explaining that we didn't have free will, I would feel extremely frustrated. Specifically, I would feel hopeless. If I didn't have free will, then what was the point of doing anything? My choices don't matter, everything is predetermined. I felt, though, that if free will really doesn't exist, there must be some way to come to peace with it. So I gave it a ton of thought, and one day it actually hit me. The reason I hated the idea of not having free will is because it made me feel powerless. But what if I am powerful and still don't have free will? That is what I actually now hold as my best understanding. But let me explain it. I think that the reason we make decisions is because we are trying to meet our needs or desires. And then when somebody tells us we don't have free will, it makes us feel like we don't have the power to meet our needs or desires, and therefore, there's no point to doing anything. We start to feel nihilistic. However, I think this is wrong or a misunderstanding. Not having free will means that we don't get to choose our desires. But when we have a desire, we still have the power to act to meet our needs. For example, I did not make the choice to be born with the desire to eat food. But I do have the desire to eat food, and, more than that, I have the power to make the choice to meet that need. I think that when we're told that we don't have free will, it makes us feel like we don't have the power to meet our need to eat, for example. But that's not true. Not having free will means that we didn't choose whether we want to eat or not. We simply do want to eat, and we can't decide to not want to eat. But we do have the power to make it so that we can eat, even though we're not the ones who decided that we want to. So, this is my personal philosophy. It is impossible for a person to act except when their action is maximizing, according to their best understanding, their ability to meet their most important desire in that given moment. And so, this is my challenge. The first person who can give me an example which contradicts this philosophy, I will give a reward of $100. However, before you get too excited about proving me wrong, let me save you some time by expanding a little on what my phrase actually means on a slightly more complex level. Specifically, two dimensions of complexity that you can think about are timing and context. For timing, when I don't need to pee, I'll do whatever I'm doing without heading to the bathroom. However, when I need to pee, my desire to pee rises beyond whatever I'm doing in that moment, and my behavior changes to move toward what is now my higher need in that moment. So, my desire is not strictly a static thing. It changes moment to moment. Building on timing, and kind of similar and overlapping, context is also huge. My desire to, let's say, run out of this room will change based on whether I'm in the presence of someone who wants to hurt me versus whether I'm in the presence of someone who I feel safe with. Both of these build on the fact that we have a hierarchy of needs, mostly which point to survival and reproduction, not surprisingly. What survival means is its own discussion. I'm not going to talk about it here, that gets into the science of evolution. But for the sake of my example, I'm going to be focusing on the group as the focus of survival. Because to the best of my understanding, human beings, as social creatures, have a strong orientation toward the survival of the group, not strictly survival of their individual self. So, taking this idea that humans are oriented toward the survival of the group, you can build a chain of any behavior, bringing it back to the survival of the group being the reason why that behavior is happening. So, why am I making this video right now? Well, because I enjoy discussing philosophy. But why do I enjoy discussing philosophy? Well, because discovery and curiosity lead to a better understanding of the world. But why do I care about understanding the world? Well, because people who understand the world are probably more useful to a group survival than people who don't understand the world accurately. But again, going back to the context and timing, if at any point my immediate survival is compromised, my desire for making this video will actually change. Why do I desire to make this video right now instead of running out of the room? Well, running out of the room isn't going to do anything for me right now. I'm safe and fine just sitting here. And as long as I'm making this video, I'm increasing the chances of furthering my career, and I'm also engaging in philosophical discussion, which is something I enjoy, which is leading to curiosity and understanding. However, if someone walks in the room with the intent to kill me, and I start to feel threatened, my desire to make this video is suddenly going to be a lot less than my desire to not die right this second. And I'm probably going to run out of this room and stop making the video. It should not be surprising that the more capable a creature is at surviving in the world by understanding it and having the power to manipulate it and control it, the more complex and difficult to understand their desires and motivations are going to be. This is the reason why I think the AI algorithm for YouTube is way more complex, but also way more effective than any algorithm a human ever tried to create for something like YouTube. And the reason is because the YouTube AI algorithm was created in a similar process that biological evolution happened. And so it's this like really super messy, complex process, but since it's being born out in the real world, it has like a million nuances that go beyond what a human could probably ever comprehend, but it's way more effective and fine-tuned to actual reality. Unlike humans, who create like very simple black and white rules and structures that can get a job done, but it's not nearly as nuanced. So my point in saying all of that is we have a hard time understanding human behavior, and we have a quick tendency to want to immediately say, well, the reason we can't just like explain it with logical scientific explanations is because it's so complicated you can't just, explain it with science. And I feel like the reason we want to do that is because the human mind is one of the most complex systems that we're aware of, and its complexity with regards to our desires and how that translates into our behaviors is just a lot more complicated than we can easily grasp. And I think we should accept that complexity as a reason to be curious, not as a reason to think that it's mysterious and impossible to explain. To reiterate the challenge, give an example of someone behaving knowingly and purposefully in a way that is not for the purpose of getting them what they want, and you could be the winner of the $100. Or, as a secondary challenge, give an example to prove this second sister theory of mine wrong, as with the other one. Prove either of these wrong in a way that I accept, and you can be the winner of the $100. The second theory is a person has a hierarchy of desires, and a person cannot in any way purposefully act in an attempt to change the desire at a specific moment in time which is at the top of the hierarchy. In other words, we do not have free will because we are bound to the will of desire we did not choose to have. Whatever that highest desire is in a given moment is what we are serving, so there is no way to logically justify that we would want to alter the highest desire, because even in saying that, you're implying that you have a higher desire to alter whatever that highest desire was, which is kind of weird. But again, do what you want. Try to contradict it. I don't think there's a way to, but that's just what I think right now. I could be wrong. However it goes, you can win $100 if you can prove it wrong. On top of that, to give some room to play the game for people who may actually agree with me on both of these, if you want to join by just giving like a thoughtful reflection of why you agree with me or some thought you have building on what I have said, if nobody manages in the next 8 weeks to disagree, or rather prove me wrong in a way that I find acceptable, I will still pick somebody to be the winner of the $100. It just might be somebody who I feel like had the most thoughtful reflection, both in agreement or disagreement. But yeah, that's how I'm going to do this contest. And as a disclaimer, I am the judge and I have the final word. The challenge of this is not to be a lawyer and to try to nitpick and pick apart my words. The goal of this is for you to try to understand what I am saying and what I think and find a hole in that. Which I would be so excited if somebody could find a hole in it, because I love being wrong and I love evolving my thinking when people find things wrong with what I'm thinking. But again, if I don't feel like anyone has proven me wrong, I'll still pick a winner. As a final note about my philosophy, the reason I think it's important is because of this. I think most people are unhappy because they don't actually know what they want. And kind of a secondary thing, which is a video in and of itself, but even if we can figure out what we want, understanding how to get it is actually kind of complicated and something most of us don't understand. But I think that the first really important step is actually understanding what you want. Because even if you know how to get everything in the world, if you don't know what you want, the information is kind of useless. When we grow up within different cultures, and even maybe some things even biologically and evolutionarily, we have a lot of ideas about what we think we want that aren't actually what we want. So if you want to explore what humans want from a psychology perspective, I strongly recommend this book called Flourish by Martin Seligman. I find it kind of hard to read sometimes, or specifically I find Martin Seligman's writing style kind of hard to read. But this book specifically, the research that he talks about and that he did and that he pioneered, I think is incredible. So if you're trying to come at this from like the philosophical, psychological, logical explanation of how the world works and how humans work, this is a great book that I would encourage you to read. However, if you want to explore what humans want, or more exactly what you personally want, from a more spiritual, experiential approach, I would strongly recommend reading the book The Art of Happiness by Howard Cutler. And I would kind of recommend trying to get into mindfulness meditation. You don't have to start out actually doing it. Maybe you could start out by like getting a book or two. There are quite a few out there. I might link a few in the video. But look into mindfulness meditation. In my personal experience, mindfulness meditation is a fascinating and powerful tool for understanding and figuring out what you actually want in life. You're basically taking some time to pay attention to your thoughts and feelings. And when you pay attention to your thoughts and feelings, you start to realize that maybe what you actually want is different than what everyone's been telling you. So, if you're interested in that, I recommend looking into that. And also linked below is one of my favorite guided meditations by Cory Muscara. Strongly recommend it. Anyway, thank you so much for watching my video. If you enjoyed it, please like the video. And after that, add a comment of your own thoughts, or just leave a kind word if you want. And then, if your name is Alex O'Connor, Jordan Peterson, Destiny, or someone who's just smart and philosophical, please reach out. I would love to talk and have a recorded conversation, or not recorded, whichever. You have a wonderful day. Stay curious and stay empathetic.